Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. This episode of Everyone Loves Guitar is brought to you by Taylor Guitars and their new Grand Pacific Round Shoulder Dreadnought. Powered by Taylor's breakthrough V-Class bracing system, the Grand Pacific gives you a warm, seasoned sound with clear low-end power and notes that are stronger, longer sustaining, and more in tune with each other all the way up the fretboard. Make sure you check it out online at taylorguitars.com, then go out and play one today. That's the new Grand Pacific at taylorguitars.com. Did you know if your instrument or any of your gear is damaged, broken, or stolen outside your home, your homeowner's insurance policy will not cover any of it? That's right. Homeowner's insurance only pays if something happens inside your home. But Music Pro Insurance insures all your music gear, no matter where it is, anywhere in the world, even when you check it in as baggage on an airline. Here, let me give you some examples. Let's say you're in a car accident and your equipment is damaged. You're covered. Your kid pours apple juice into your amplifier. Covered. Someone spills beer all over your pedal board at a gig somewhere across the world. Boom, you're covered. Any kind of theft or accidental damage is covered, even water damage from hurricanes and breakage from earthquakes. But here's what makes Music Pro really different. They're not going to argue with you over the value of your instrument or make you run around looking for receipts when it comes time to paying your claim. They know exactly why your vintage instrument is worth 10 times more than a new one. Plus, all claims are typically paid and fully settled in 24 to 48 hours. So if your equipment is not insured properly, go to musicproinsurance.com, hit standard, then enter your information and get a free gear protection estimate. Don't be that player who ignores this, and then next month when something happens, you're wondering why you didn't take 10 minutes to do this properly. Make sure you go to musicproinsurance.com, enter your information, and get a free gear protection estimate. If something happens, you will be thanking me. Trust me on this. musicproinsurance.com. The Be Fulfilled Journal helps you be more honest with yourself and with others and be more open to handling things you've avoided dealing with for years. It's a 12-week online and journal program that helps you identify and eliminate things you do that are causing you stress and live in more gratitude and joy. It was actually developed by a long-term friend of mine who got sober in 2008, and he's put together a great deal just for my listeners. You get the 300-page hardcover journal and access to the 12-week video program online, plus free shipping, plus membership in a private Facebook support group with others going through the program, plus a 5-day mini course showing you how to let go of stuff that's draining your energy, plus a 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. To start your journey and get all the bonuses, go to BeFulfilledJournal.com/ELG. That's BeFulfilledJournal.com/ELG. For information about advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, including information on geographically targeted ads, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey, this is Craig, and I just want to talk to you about something serious for a moment before we start today's episode. In 2018, at the very beginning of the year in January, I had interviewed Frank Sidoris. Frank was and still is Slash's guitar player. He's a lovely guy, really cool, and just a tremendous guitar player. And I actually had a lot of fun with Frank, and he's one of those guys we stayed in touch throughout this time. And last week I read some really unfortunate news on his social media channels that his girlfriend has cervical cancer. And I don't know if you have had a family member or had cancer impact your life or your family's life or a friend's life, but I have, and it's a terribly devastating disease in every single way, and the sense of powerlessness that you feel when a loved one has cancer is really devastating. Anyway, Frank's girlfriend, I do not believe, has any kind of medical insurance. He is running a GoFundMe campaign, and I just wanted to tell you about the campaign. If you are inclined to go donate, make a donation, I know Frank and his girlfriend would appreciate it. And I just wanted to give you the location of where you could find that campaign. The best thing to do is go to Frank's socials, and his Instagram and Twitter is both at Frank Sidoris, and his name is Frank, FrankSidoris. And you can also find it on his Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Frank Sidoris. Again, FrankSidoris. Any little bit you're willing to give will help those guys out. And I'm just going to run this message for this week to help Frank and his family out. And whether you've been impacted by cancer or not, I certainly thank you for listening to this, and I wish you nothing but good health. So now let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. And, man, I got just an awesome guest today. We're going to show some love to the rhythm section. I've got one of the most successful bass players, like, in the history of rock and roll, especially over in the UK. And he's actually one of the funniest guys I met, like, legitimately. Like, he has a comedy act that he's not doing anymore, unfortunately. But that's funny as hell. Like, a bunch of people told me. Anyway, we're with the one and only Guy Pratt. Guy is a bass player, like I said, singer, songwriter, composer, multi-instrumentalist, comedian, and actor, as if that's not enough. He's best known for his work as a prolific session bass player. He's pretty much a first-call bass player over in England, working with Pink Floyd, also David Gilmour, and getting ready to go out on tour with Nick Mason through the States here. I'd encourage you to check that out if you're all a Floyd fan. Played with Bryan Ferry and Roxy Music for years. David Bowie, or Bowie as he says, Madonna, Michael Jackson, the Smiths, Robert Palmer, Echo and the Bunnymen, just some like massive name. And I've trimmed this list down. Tears for Fears, Icehouse, Bananarama, Iggy Pop, Tom Jones, Blondie's Debbie Harry, Whitesnake, Womack and Womack, Christy McCall, Gary Moore, Coverdale Page, Lemon Jelly, The Orb, All Saints, Stephen Duffy, Robbie Robertson, and A.R. Rahman, the famous soundtrack brilliant guy out of England. In addition to his work as a session player, he's a member of the Australian rock band Icehouse, as I said, and he's currently
that was a long time ago.
Was a member of the Australian rock band Icehouse, and is currently a member of the electronica band Transit Kings with Alex Patterson of The Orb.
Was as well.
It's done so much here. He's also
people are going to be going to sleep. You need to stop that.
No, let me tell you, this is big shit, man. You're like a big swinging dick over in the UK here, man. I got to show you off. Pratt's also been an actor and worked on TV and film soundtracks, including Dick Tracy, The Last Action Hero, Hackers, Still Crazy, and Johnny English Reborn. As I mentioned, in 2005, he debuted a one-man music and comedy show called My Bass and Other Animals, and hopefully he'll share some of the stories with us today. And this led up to a book that he wrote of the same name, published in 2007. Allegedly, he's working on another book, Time Will Tell. Guy spent 2011 performing stand-up in Switzerland, Austria, and at the Edinburgh Fringe, as well as on a South American tour playing bass guitar for another great player, Dominic Miller, who's, of course, well known for being Sting's guitar player. Guy came to prominence when he was chosen to, I think he was always in prominence, actually, right, Guy? When he was chosen to play bass for Pink Floyd's post-Roger Waters, A Momentary Lapse of Reason tour in 87 to 90, which was really freaking huge, man. And the Division Bell tour in 94. He co-performed lead vocals on Run Like Hell, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Us and Them, and Comfortably Numb with Gilmour during the live shows. He also played bass on several tracks on the Division Bell record. Tony Levin had previously performed all the bass parts on A Momentary Lapse of Reason, and Guy replaced him on the later tour because Tony was unavailable. He also toured as part of Gilmour's On an Island tour backing band alongside another Pink Floyd member and his father-in-law at the time. That was too, Richard Wright. Guy's also played with several international Pink Floyd cover bands, among them the N Pink Floyd, the Australian Pink Floyd Show, and Brit Floyd. Some of those guys have toured here, actually. And by the time this episode...
Yeah, I'm not particularly proud of those.
Doesn't make you a bad person, Guy.
They've just been guest spots. I've just got them guest spots. Yeah.
And by the time this episode airs, he'll be playing, like I said, with Nick Mason's Saucer Full of Secrets for their tour, performing early Pink Floyd music. That's got to be great. He won a Grammy in 95 for Marooned, which is an instrumental track on Pink Floyd's 94 album, The Division Bell. Great freaking song. And he's been nominated for 2 Ivor Novello Awards and was awarded an ARIA Award for his work with Icehouse. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Not at all. I'm still sorry. You finished.
I'm exhausted. I have nothing left.
You're exhausted. I'm exhausted.
To say. Man, you said in your bio, it said your dad was in show business, but yet initially you worked as a graphic designer before getting into music. I was wondering what the trigger was that got you interested in playing.
Oh no, it was my dad. My dad bought me my first bass guitar when I was for my 14th birthday. Well, Christmas, combination Christmas and birthday. And then, sadly, he died 6 months later. And he was really, really encouraging because, he wrote the first English rock and roll songs for this guy, Tommy Steele, back in the 50s. And then, although he's better known as an actor in England later on. But I became a graphic designer just because when I left school at 16. I'm what you'd call a high school dropout. And I went and
what do they call that in England? Is it a different name?
No, but it used to be. It was cool. You could leave at 16. You can't now, but it was cool back then. I mean, I wish I hadn't. But or that kind of because I went and hitchhiked around America.
Holy shit! At 16?
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is extraordinary because my son is 16 now. And then I look at him and think, God, you fucking millennial, you couldn't. There's part of me that thinks that, but there's also a part of me that also thinks, Mum, what were you thinking letting me do that? Jeez, didn't you care? But so I hitchhiked around America and I ended up with a gig in LA. I got to design the logo for a roller skate company. So I came home and I had this portfolio and I managed to get a job with a graphics company. And that was just something to do because, I needed to have a job. And I was going to be a bass player. That was already decided. So
you knew that already. What made you go, that's a freaking really ballsy, you must be really ballsy, man. That's a big thing to do.
Incredibly stupid. I'm not particularly brave. I'm incredibly insecure. I have no idea what I was thinking.
By yourself?
Because we flew to New York, and this is in 1978 when New York was the scariest place on earth.
It was horrible.
They just invented mugging.
Crack.
And in England, it was like Sao Paulo or something.
Yes. Wow.
So
did you do that by yourself, or with
the ignorance of youth can be a good thing, I guess.
Were you alone or with a friend? Or
no, I was with a friend. I was with a friend who and it's one of those things. I arrived and sort of realized I'd gone with the wrong guy.
Oh, that's the worst part. Yeah.
Yeah. So I dumped him I didn't dump him. We agreed to split up. He had a cousin. Also, he had some family in Winnipeg. So left him there, and then I headed off out west on my own.
Holy shit! Any funny stories from that trip?
There was one that we were. I mean, this is an extraordinary thing because we hitchhiked from Toronto to Winnipeg. We got the bus to Buffalo, and of course, I'd spent my entire life up till then in a country where if you go more than 300 miles, you fall off the end, and this was like 300 miles and not seeing a diner. And there was one night we were stuck in the absolute middle of nowhere, and we had to sleep. And we went and we found the most sheltered place we could find was this there was a river. And the road went over it on a bridge. And we went and slept under this bridge.
Holy shit.
And woke up in the morning and there were fish heads all around us. Meaning bears had been in there.
Holy crap.
We were asleep. If either of us had woken up.
It's a good thing you didn't wake up, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, luckily back then I was a great sleeper.
Holy shit, dude! I got like goosebumps. That's scary shit. Oh my god. Well, I'm thinking yeah. Holy crap, man. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first story. So this is you're in for a treat. All right, then 2 years later, you're with Icehouse, opening for David Bowie on his Serious Moonlight tour, which is the largest, longest, and most successful concert tour. How did that happen? And what did you get out of that experience? Because you must have learned
it was amazing. Well, he asked us. He asked. We had this big hit in Europe at the time. Hey Little Girl, which was a big hit because everyone thought it was Roxy music. It really did sound like Roxy music. Although still it's a great song. And he heard it, and everyone, especially the funny thing is because Icehouse were an Australian band, and there was like the real for something real Bowie competition. There was like Ice House and In Excess. It was kind of like Blur and Oasis, or
right.
or Kiss and Aerosmith, whatever. And you don't have that band rivalry thing in America, do you? Did you? Like we had the Beatles and the Stones, and then Blur and Oasis, and
really.
Pistols.
Not really.
And it's a real thing. Well, it's because everything's so tribal over here.
Well, no. We got 350 million people to support musically. It's different, I think. You have such a smaller population, so I could see that being more competitive in a sense. Yeah,
and that's true. But yeah. And no, that whole thing, if you're either into one or the other, And although I remember a friend, an American friend of mine. Well, yeah, but I remember him saying when he was at school in the 70s, and you'd have on the parking lot at school, you'd have all the guys drinking beer on one side, listening to Led Zeppelin,
right,
and so on. And then you'd have all the guys smoking pot on the other side, or listening to Genesis and Pink Floyd.
No, it was more like disco and rock back in the 70s. That's what the only kind of rivalry.
Yeah, but that was just racist, wasn't it? Basically,
yeah, kind of, pretty much. Pretty much it was. But what was interesting is, I've interviewed a lot of guys and a lot of friends that were black guys, and they were into rock, and they had a really hard time apparently, because of that, which is really bizarre.
Well, it's quite funny because when I met, in fact, it was on the Cirrus Moonlight tour. I somehow ended up getting taken out by Bowie's band and Bowie one night in Rotterdam. They took me to a nightclub. God. I know, I couldn't fucking believe it. I mean, it was insane. It was pandemonium. And it was so funny. I was freaking out. People were trying to get hold of Bowie and stuff. And the band was so cool about it. Eventually, David left. I remember Carlos Alomar going out with David is fine. You just got to let him leave. I remember sitting there talking to Tony Thompson. Of course, Tony Thompson was my hero because of Chic. I fucking, adored Chic. And he was saying his whole thing was John Bonham.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. It's funny. Carlos Alomar, he's a New York guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. He was a Bowie he was Bowie and Iggy.
Oh, was he?
He was the guy who played that solo on guitar in Lust for Life, as a matter of fact.
You're kidding?
No, that was Carlos Alomar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm embarrassed and ashamed to have not known that.
Oh, I know more useless information than anyone, guy. It's part of the.
Do you want to hear the best one? Do you want to hear the best useless information, man? Because if you start me on this, right?
Yeah, man, come on.
My favorite. I only found this out recently from Danny Baker, who's a great DJ and sort of music historian over here. Diamond Dogs.
Yeah, but the Bowie record.
Right? Yeah, he says this ain't rock and roll, this is genocide, and then the riff starts, right, and then the crowd comes in. You hear the crowd roaring.
Yeah.
Just at the end of the crowd roaring, as the song comes in, you hear Rod Stewart go, "Oi, oi!"
That's Rod Stewart.
Because the audience is from the Faces live album.
Holy shit. That is good trivia, man. Very cool. All right. So
it's pretty, just here. Oi, oi. Sorry. Yes.
No, it's all good, man.
I digressed.
No, it's just perfect. You must have gotten a lot out of that experience besides getting loaded in like every nightclub in Europe.
I did. Well, there is a fantastic. I mean, there's a great picture I had because Bowie came to one of the gigs because we were doing all these festivals as well. We were doing these German traveling festival called A Midsummer Night's Dream, and it was, which was a really weird lineup. It was very German. There was like us and a couple of weird German heavy metal bands, and then Robert Palmer. That's where I met Robert Palmer. And then Peter Tosh. It was great. Then Mike Oldfield. And then Paco de Lucia with Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin, which is weird.
That's a weird combo.
And Crosby, Stills and Nash were headlining. And when Crosby was like deep into his chemistry.
So
that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And, in fact, years later, I got to know David quite well. Bless him, I adore him. Naughty Santa, as we call him.
Naughty Santa.
He really is. He looks like
did you play with him?
Yeah, with David, with Gilmour. He came and sang because they did backing vocals on Island, and him and Nash came and sang with us in New York and at the Albert Hall. Yeah, I had this terrible thing where because I sing his harmony parts right on the song on Island. And so when he came to sing it, I said to David, well, obviously you don't need me to sing it. He went, no, the more the merrier, you sing it. It's like, are you fucking kidding? So I had to stand on stage next to David Crosby trying to sing his part.
Wow.
I mean, humiliation for that. But
no, but you must have a great voice. Obviously, Gilmour's not going to tell you to. He's not going to have you even singing background vocals. I mean, I know you're being humble, but
man, singing Crosby part. I'm an okay backing singer, but Crosby harmony parts are extraordinary because you know, whenever you hear a tune, there's an obvious part. There's your obvious third and your obvious fifth, whatever. But the parts that Crosby sings, he finds this thing in the middle that if on its own doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? When I sat back at my hum, I was like, "Let the night surround you, at the moon die." You know, this little tune there.
Yeah.
And then you stick it, it's like this bang, amazing glue that, you know.
That's wonderful.
But it's quite funny when he first turned up for those shows, and I said to him, "Listen, David, you probably won't remember, but you and I actually did a tour together many years ago." Oh, what was it? I said, it was 1983 or 84 in Germany. Oh my God, bad time. Well, oh my God, I probably had a free bass pipe glued to my mouth the whole time. I went, yeah. And he said, I said, I've got to tell you though, David, there were one or two quite funny things that came out. When, oh my God, yeah, I'm sure. Just don't tell anyone. David, I'm charging people money.
In your comedy act, that was part of this. Yeah. That was one of the stories. Oh my God, that's classic, man. I'm charging people money. So you played with Bowie.
Well, I didn't. You played with overhyped. I didn't really play with Bowie. I mean, actually, although I'm very proud to say that. Actually, I did play with Bowie in that his second from last ever live performance was with us, with Gilmour at the Albert Hall, where he came and sang Arnold Lane, which was insane. Wow. And what's incredible is that he literally knew that song inside, outside, upside, downside. It was amazing. And it's like he probably hadn't listened to it for 20 years, but that song is so deeply, you could tell how it was so important to him. He just knew it so. But then he sang Comfortably Numb, which he clearly didn't know.
Funny.
Completely made it his own. You know, it was amazing. Hello, is there anybody in there?
That's great, man.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. But the funny thing is, because on that tour, the original tour in Germany, I saw all these press were taking pictures of him in the catering tent, and for some reason he went, "I think you should be in this," and he put his arm around me. So I'm actually looking at it now because it's on the wall in my office. It's me with Bowie standing next to me, and then there's Carmine Rojas and Tony Thompson, both with their arms around me. And I've got this incredibly bemused expression. Like, what, me?
That's great.
But when we did, when David sang with us in 2006, we did this sort of team photo on stage at the end. And because I was writing my book at the time, I thought, oh, fuck, I wanted this worth to go. So I went up to David Bowie. I said, look, David, really sorry, but would you mind? I want to recreate a photo you and I had taken in 1984. He went, all right. So he stood next to me, photographer got the camera ready, and I did this thing of I pulled the same expression I had on this pitch back in 1984, and he went, I remember that photo.
Get out.
You don't. He went, yeah, Germany, Ice House, 1984.
Holy shit, that's
freaky shit, man.
Oh my God. So now you have both photos. You have them side by side?
Yeah, no, they're both in my book. They're next to each other in the book.
That's fantastic, man. That's really cool. Very cool, man. What kind of opportunities did that visibility with that tour opening for him lead to for you?
Well, it's where I met Robert Palmer, and he came and he said to me at the end, he said, "Oh, listen, why don't you come to the Bahamas and write some songs?" And he gave me his phone number. I thought he's clearly joking, but I called him, and he went, "Yeah, sure." And I went out and spent 2 weeks. I mean, it was heaven, just hanging out with Robert Palmer and writing songs. And then at the end of it, he got this call from John Taylor from Duran Duran saying, "Listen, we're doing this album and we're going to have loads of different singers. Would you want to come and have you got any songs?" He went, "Sure." So he went over he said, "I've got this one song," which was a thing that me and him had written called Go to Zero. And he sang it, and they were just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Forget it. Let's just start a band and have Robert be the singer." So that was the Power Station. And I wrote one of the songs on it.
That is so cool. Did you work with a guy, was Cliff Goodwin there? Cliff's a guitar player. He came in, he had to finish like some tracks on that album, but Palmer brought him down to,
the Power Station album?
The one with his big hits, was that the Power Station record?
Well, no. Power Station was the Power Station, and then and because of that, that's where Robert met Bernard. So he got Bernard to then produce his next album, which is Riptide, the one with Addicted to Love and everything.
Yeah, that it was that record.
I did actually play on the Power Station, but not officially. I had to be snuck in.
Why?
Cover on one song. Well, because John Taylor was the bass player.
Wow.
But so no, I think Cliff got no, because I did end up working on Riptide on Robert's album, which is still my proudest credit ever. Because if you read the credits for that album, it says bass Bernard Edwards and Guy Pratt.
Very cool, man.
I was only 21.
That's crazy that you're.
I know, it's nuts. No, it's nuts now that I think about it.
I don't even know where to start. Acting, man. It's like it's like a Rolodex, and I just want to, throw a, stop the Rolodex and wherever randomly comes out. How'd you get into acting? Like, you legitimately were acting.
I'm not really. I mean, I'm actually terrible. Actually, there's one thing I could plug is I am in a new film, which is actually a very cool, funny film called Burning Men, which is about these two young guys in a band who find this kind of legendary record by some sort of Scandinavian death metal band, and then everything gets very supernatural, and it's like a very cool psychedelic sort of road movie.
When does that come out?
It's not out yet. It's just coming out.
That's odd. So how did all this come? Like what makes someone pick up the phone and say, "Guy, are you available for this movie?" I mean, like, how does that all work?
Yes, because I've been working on a film project on something I've written. For it, which I can't seem to get any money for. We did have some money for it, but then Brexit happened, which is because I've actually written a thing based on something that happened to me, which is about a middle-aged bass player down on his luck who gets asked to do a load of bass clinics in southern Italy, and hilarity ensues. But no, because I don't really act. It's because the thing is, my dad was an actor, and I have slight thespian tendencies, but I'm actually not very good at it. I'm only good at stuff if I've written it, which is why I do the comedy show. But I used to have a thing, because I had a few years where I was just doing lots of music for TV and film. I used to ask if anything I did the music for, I'd ask if I could have a little Hitchcovian walk-on part.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. So
you are ballsy, man. You got to be ballsy. You are ballsy. I mean, I know you say you're like terribly insecure, but you got to have balls. No, seriously, most people don't do that. I mean, I'm like that. I think the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and as long as you're not a dick about it, you'll get hits on some of those.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, no, it's fun. I mean, I like that world. I like it's. I mean, the thing of being an actor is that you just have to get up so early in the fucking morning.
That's first world problems, man. Come on.
It's a real first world problem. I know, and you have to be, and you can't be hungover, and so.
We need to have a seminar with you and Paul Stacey teaching opportunities for acting for musicians. I'm smelling this is your plan B, dude. So okay, like I said, I spoke to a bunch of players over there who've seen your show, and they all said it's funny. Yeah. What prompted you to do a one? And by the way, that was all unsolicited. I didn't ask them. They just said, "Oh yeah, I saw his show."
All right. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, Kev. Well, because I started writing a book, and I really hated it. I thought I really don't like writing, to be honest. But I do. But I love telling stories. And all musicians have got stories. They're all funny. All of us are. And so it's kind of. I mean, the way I look at the joke I have about it is like I had two choices. I could either be that bloke who sits down the pub where everyone goes, "Oh, don't get him started."
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Or you can try standing up and charging people
getting
money.
Paid for it. Yeah,
yeah. Because I had it wasn't even the getting paid bit. It was more also there's that thing of when you get to middle age, there's a lot of sidemen I know who develop this thing I call sideman bitterness. Of just kind of thinking, well, where's my share? Where's my? I don't know, and it's and the thing is, I'm really, really happy as a bass player. I'm really happy being a supportive player. I love that. Yeah. I love being in the background on stage. Well, not in the back. I'm not in the background, but
you're in the background on Gilmour stage. That's not a bad background to be in, Guy.
Yeah, that's true. But
it's not like you're playing at the pub.
The great thing about doing the stand-up is that I get all this attention, and no one really knows what's going to happen, and it's fresh every night. You don't know, because it's also that thing of, because of the people I play for, if you go on stage with Bryan Ferry and you play Love is the Drug, you've got a pretty good idea of how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
You know, you get up on stage with David Gilmour, you play Wish You Were Here. You've got a pretty good idea how it's going to go down. You know, it's all money. And there's something catastrophic happens, it's fucking money in the bank.
Right.
So the thing with the stand-up is putting yourself in a position where, I don't know, they don't know what they're going to get, and I don't know. And it's so fantastically rewarding. You know, 'cause there's nothing better than a laugh. There's nothing better than, and everyone loves a backstage story. Everyone loves to talk stories.
I think that's great, man. Plus, it's you. Listen, you're a musician. You like to perform. So now you get to perform doing something else you like, which is telling stories.
Well, the funny thing I found quite ironic, which is that having been a musician all my life, is that I spend everyone I meet, everyone just says, "Oh, you're so lucky to do something you love. Oh, to do something you love. How great to do something you love. Oh, it must be wonderful doing something you love." Then you say, "I do stand up. Oh, you're so brave. Something you're so brave." It's like, well, maybe, but I mean, I haven't become a fireman or anything. It's still the same self-serving, needy search for affirmation. But yes, I mean, the thing is, it is terrifying. It is really, really scary. But that's the thing. I used to get scared going up on stage to play the bass, but now I don't at all. There's literally nothing that can scare me. I can go on stage and I'm not know any of the songs, and it's just too comfortable an environment for me to ever feel fear.
When did that happen? After how many years?
I'm trying to think. I can't remember exactly when it happened. It's one of those things that you don't notice. But
is that an age thing or is that a musical experience thing? Because I don't, and they are exclusive.
I mean, it's kind of. It was probably after that first Pink Floyd tour. You know, it's like once you've played every Olympic stadium in the world,
right?
You know. I guess, I mean, I still love it. I still absolutely that, but that's why the thing with Nick is so great, because it's slightly more of an unknown. People aren't quite sure what they're going to get. And the great thing is they're getting a load of stuff that they've definitely never heard played live.
Oh my God. I wish so bad you guys are coming here, man. I love all that. I literally listen. It's in my regular rotation, you know, Arnold Lane, all those songs. I listen to them all the time. I mean, that Pink Floyd's been my number one, you know, I mean, like that's my.
Is Miami that far?
Yeah. It's 5 hours.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We have to ring Nick right fucking now.
You go where you're told. You know what I mean? You know,
no, I hear you. But that's a great concert, man.
Yeah, thank you.
How did you get hooked up with Gilmour? I
knew David through. It came through two things. I was playing for this band, Dream Academy.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I played for them, and David was producing them, and so I first came to his attention then. But then he wasn't really doing very much. And so when I was playing for Bryan Ferry, and he used to come in and play guitar for him. So I kind of got to know him a bit like that. And then basically Tony Levin couldn't do the tour. So thanks, Tony.
That's amazing, man. What's it? Were those the biggest stages you've played on?
Yeah. I mean, I played with Bowie. We'd done stuff that big, but we were the support act, you know. Yeah. So yes, I had played those stages, but only in daylight.
What was it like? Like, what was the biggest place you?
Their drinks and kind of, you know.
What was the biggest place you played, and was it weird? Was it weird hearing that music that you probably grew up listening to? Yeah,
no, man. I went to see the Wall shows every fucking night. Oh, it was cool. And it's still the best show I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it was, but I used to get a lovely contact high thing with the audience where rather than feeling all arrogant and kind of like, yeah, we're amazing, I used to look at people down the front, you know, losing their minds and be thinking, yeah, I know, I was you, I know.
Oh, yeah.
So, and which I used to really like, because I always like that thing of feeling like I'm the guy that this stuff happened to. It could have been anyone. And that's kind of one of the things I like to, that's one of the reasons for the comedy show and everything, is to convey that thing of what if it happened to you, you know? So it's, I'm amazing.
No, but you mentioned something earlier about people say you're lucky you do something you like, but that was a choice you made, and everybody has that same choice. You know, I mean, not to be like obnoxious about it, but
I know what you mean, but also, you said, but there's also a lot of it's to do with timing. I mean, if I made that choice now, the opportunities available to me would be very different.
True. True.
You know, I mean, it's like my son's a musician, and because half the reason to be in music was you didn't even have to be that into music. It's like where all the cool people with ideas were. So it was such an obvious place to want to be.
Right.
Whereas now it isn't. I mean, that's the thing, is where my son it does music. I mean, he's a brilliant pop songwriter and performer, and he clearly has no choice but to do anything else. And he's really not interested in being where the cool people with ideas are. He just has to do music. And, you know, I really applaud him for that. Whereas I don't know if I'd have been the same.
Yeah. So you like the camaraderie and the
yeah, I like the whole thing. I mean, I with me, music is all about. I like the art of it. I like I like the politics and the clothes and all that. I loved all that. I wasn't really into the muso side of thing. I mean, I was, I'm part of that. I was the guys who, I was 14 when punk happened, and it was so. To me, it was always about the sociology and everything. That's why I love getting older. I mean, that's the thing I love about being in a band with Gary Kemp, because this is one of the fascinating things about the band, about Nick's band. People go, oh my God, it's the guy from Spandau Ballet and Pink Floyd, and and you think, well, you know what? There's a hell of a lot less distance between those two than you might think.
Yeah.
Because actually, all the big English musical movements all started with a band in a club. From either The Who at the Marquee, the Stones at the Richmond Hotel, Sex Pistols at the 100 Club, AC/DC at the Marquee and the Fifth Floor, Spandau Ballet at the Blitz, Pink Floyd at the UFO Club. So actually, Gary said at the Blitz Club in 1980, when the New Romantics started, said they had all these old guys back then, wouldn't have been old, who are from the UFO Club. Used to hang, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
that's where English stuff and. In England, there was much more of an important thing about a scene and what you stood, and the clothes and everything that went with music, and what you stood for. Where it's not, which I don't think is such a thing in America.
No, it's definitely not here, because here nobody would question. It would be more like, wow, the guy from Spandau Ballet and the guy from Pink Floyd, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that's great. Yeah, that's
no, it's interesting. Whereas there was
funny.
Yeah,
I've noticed there's different cultural things, even just through being married to Anne for all these years. There's different things how like we talked earlier about the language is different, but just the different mindsets on things and with the way they look at things. One thing about this country is, and I think it's unique. And I'm not getting on a soapbox for America, but I think that you're very forgiven to fuck up one thing and then do something else. Nobody's like holds a grudge again. You're not limited.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because you can reinvent yourself any given day, which is nice. And, from what I understand, that's not as easy in other places.
No, that's true. Although, wasn't it Scott Fitzgerald who said there are no second acts in American lives?
F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Sure what he meant by that.
There are no second. Yeah, I don't know. I never heard that quote, but yeah, that's not true. I mean, I remember as a kid growing up, there was a sportscaster called Marv Albert, in New York City, very famous guy. Did all the Knicks, all the famous sports. One day, you wake up in the morning, and apparently he was about to get married on the weekend, and instead he went and had a mistress, and he decided, hey, I'm going to rape her and beat the shit out of her today. Like my weddings. And like she was like black and blue and bruised. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's done. He's back sportscasting now. It was like 5 years. And then that he was back, which is kind of like weird, but like, I certainly wouldn't want to hear the guy ever again. But,
that is weird.
That is weird, right? Yeah, that's the way. So they, I guess it's like good and bad.
Well, no, we certainly have that with our politicians. I mean, it's half our government are people who have all been disgraced for something a few years, before.
Yeah. Oh, we do that too. We have the market on that. Anyway, man, you also.
Don't, actually, but no, I'm obsessed with American politics. You don't want to go there with me.
No. You're probably a lot smarter on that than I am. Also. You also play with Gary Moore. You played bass on Dark Days in Paradise. How'd you get that gig, and any cool or interesting stories about working with Gary?
Gary, well, I adored Gary. Gary's brilliant. Actually, there's an interesting. There's a story I do in my show, basically because I love impersonating David Coverdale, my dear chap, and because there's
And you play with Whitesnake too.
I did play Whitesnake, yeah. Witter Snarkate, to give them their correct nomenclature. But no, the reason Gary Moore's album is called that is because of this story I used to tell, which Gary used to love, which is that it's a bit of a preamble. When I was doing the Coverdale Page thing and we were rehearsing, turns out my then girlfriend, who went on to become my wife, Gala, Rick Wright's daughter, her best friend was Sarah Lord, who was John Lord's daughter, right? They were at school together.
Okay.
And they became best friends. Their parents didn't know each other. Sheer coincidence. The daughters of the keyboard players from colour-named prog rock bands.
That's
right?
really wild.
I know, it's really wild. And Sarah's great. But the funny thing is that, so of course, John Lord had played for Whitesnake until he found out that his roadie was getting paid more than him.
Oh, my God.
So he left under something of a cloud. And so as a result, the Lords and the Coverdales hadn't been on each other's Christmas card list for about 18 years or something. And David hadn't seen Sarah since she was about 4. And, of course, now she was this gorgeous girl, 22. And I just mentioned to David, I said, David, you know that Gala's really good friends with Sarah. I mean, do you want to see her? She's like, why, that precious flower? Bring her forth and I might cast my eyes upon her once again. Well, all right. So the girls came down at the studio, right? They had a nice catch-up. So always good to connect, guy. And but as the girls left, right, with David looking wistfully after them, he turned to me and he said, I swear to God, Guy, I can see that you got something particularly special to lose. But let me tell you, these days, you either catch some dreadful disease or they slap a lawsuit on you. Nice. And then here's the key line. These are dark days indeed for a coxman.
is that so? That's how dark days in paradise.
Dark days indeed for a coxman.
Oh my!
And Gary Moore used to get me to say, he went, "Oh, go on, say that again, say that again." And then he ended up calling his album "Dark Days in Paradise."
That's hilarious, man. Dark days indeed for a coxman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brilliant. I say that, by the way, with complete and utter affection. I do. I love David. I love David Coverdale. I was very, very surprised because I did the Whitesnake album at his home up in Lake Tahoe, and incredibly civilized and sophisticated man. I thought he'd just be kind of listening to some screaming heavy metal all the time. Absolute aficionado of world cinema, and very, very. It's really a nice, gentle living up there, I must say. But yes, Gary Moore. Yeah, well, actually, we recorded half of it in Barbados at Eddie Grant's studio, which was brilliant. But the only thing, unfortunately, this was when, I don't know if we're having the, because you guys, of course, are 30 years behind on dance music.
Yes, at least.
Just discovered EDM. It's like, really? Yeah. Now?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the 80s, yeah. And, but we had, drum and bass was the big thing in the 90s. That when it was that really manic program. And the funny thing is, it was kind of like house music. It was invented by people who kind of wanted to do jazz funk but didn't really know how to do it, and ended up inventing another type of music, which is always cool.
Yeah.
Music, but Gary got really into drum and bass, and so he'd done some sort of drum and bass tunes, and so we went out on tour, and there was this kind of drum and bass section of the show, which we used to dread every night, just knowing that every song was just going to be followed by tumbleweeds. Oh my God!
Now, Dark Days, that was like a kind of a metal record.
No, it wasn't.
What was
it was actually it was quite broad. There were some really nice songs on it. It had some kind of like real jazz funk R&B stuff on it. Some rock stuff. Actually, I haven't listened to it for years. I must have, but the tour was just the most fantastic fun. I really did love Gary. I mean, fuck, what a player!
Oh my God! What a tone that guy had for days. Just any funny Gary.
We used to do Out in the Fields, which was just
great
brilliant.
song.
It's just it's so camp, isn't
it? He's such a good player, man. He's just
listening the same, and a great writer, really great writer.
Yeah, he really was.
The only thing I used to get with him is that those two songs where he nicks the same bar few was I remember the couple of times when I was really hungover on stage, and he'd be halfway through a solo, and I'd go, "Fuck, is this Parisian Walkways or Still Got the Blues?" I can't
They are kind of like, I can understand that for sure. Would he play? Did he play both of those, or at least Parisian Ways? He probably played that almost every night.
Sometimes both of them, yeah, or would alternate. I just think, shit, which one is it?
Yeah, brilliant player, man.
Yeah, so brilliant. A lovely guy, really great guy. And always really was very considerate to the band and everything. He's one of those people who kind of really cared about his players.
Is that a more unusual or?
No, it's not unusual, but it's quite interesting how there are people who do and people who don't. And I mean, there are people who there are people who are really nice without realizing it, and there are people who aren't very nice without realizing it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not, and there are some people are dicks and some people are, but it's not a cut and dry thing. It's not a black and white thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see. So you're some people, when you said they're not really nice but not realizing it, you're always got to say, oh, they mean well, but.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Man, I'm going to throw out some artists and people that you play with. Talk about maybe how you got the gig and an interesting story about working with them. Let's start with Jimmy Page, man.
Jimmy, that came through when I did Nebworth with Pink Floyd in 1990. When we headlined above Paul McCartney, and my usual guitar tech couldn't do it. Oh, because he was working for McCartney, I think. And so we got in this guy, Lionel Ward, lovely guy, who I didn't realize was also Jimmy Page's tech. And so when the Coverdale Page thing came up, I just got all these messages from Lionel, and he just wouldn't tell us what the gig was. He just said, "There's this gig. Are you up for this gig?" I said, "Well, I might be." And who is it? Oh, I can't tell you that. So, well, I can't tell you if I'm up for it. That's
kind of weird, no?
Yeah, but it was also, but that's at that end. It's that whole Led Zeppelin world. They love it. They love all that, Okay. It's so funny. In fact, I had a manager at the time, and our joke was we used to call Lionel Secret Squirrel. Have you heard of Secret Squirrel?
Secret Squirrel. That's so funny, man.
No, Secret Squirrel.
Yeah, no, Secret Squirrel. That was the cartoon.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I literally didn't know who it was for until I walked into the rehearsal room. And it was like, fucking
So you walk in there and it's Jimmy Page.
And it's Jimmy Page.
So you knew him from the tour, though, like at least.
I know too. Lionel, I'd never met Jimmy, and then that was the first time I ever saw him. And it was brilliant. God, having to play all those Zeppelin songs.
How cool is that?
It's so cool. Also, actually, playing all these Whitesnake songs as well, which was really, really good fun. And what was amazing, I was thinking when we were going to have to do all these Whitesnake songs, I was going to think, oh my God, what's Jimmy going to make of that? And of course, he was all over it like a cheap suit. Yeah. Because of course you forget he's the ultimate old session dog.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What a great player.
He still had all that ready to go. He's like, okay, let's do a take. So that's how I got that. And then it's nice. I mean, I stayed in touch with Jimmy. I've always got on well with him. And until I fucked up, I did when he did that thing when they closed the Beijing Olympics, and he did Whole Lot of Love, and I played bass on it, and I accidentally revealed the name of the song on a boat, and so Jimmy got really upset with me, and but it's I think we're over it.
Good. That's a silly thing to not get over, man. Especially all these years later.
You'd be amazed. People love to get upset. People love to get upset about shit,
Yeah, I got a pretty short memory. I don't retain stuff like that. Wow. Sorry, I'm just having a brain. I'm just thinking of the experience of playing with Jimmy Page. God, so you've literally played with some of the greatest guitarists in the world. I mean, like Gilmour, Page.
Yeah. Jimmy is amazing. The thing with Jimmy is that there's stuff he does where you can't count it. You just get it, right. And you don't. You can't. For instance, if you're not sure whether, but you can't do not look at his foot. That's not going to help you at all, because that's doing some weird psychogeography dance thing that doesn't do anywhere. I mean, we used to have this joke. I had a joke when we used to do In My Time of Dying, and there's a bit in the middle of it when it goes into the kind of funky bit. And I used to say, oh, yeah, that's when we do the bar of pi 4.
You know what? I can't stand it. People sitting, like these people in forums or postings that are sitting in their basement or something.
I saw a YouTube, so I got taken. I know where you're going. I went down one of those YouTube rabbit holes recently. I don't know. I was on something that started off, how you're supposed to count the bit in Stairway to Heaven before it goes to the last section, and how everyone's been counting it wrong, and how there isn't a bar 6. It's like, get a life.
I mean, no, I was going to say it's like people, Jimmy Page is real sloppy. Let me tell you, if I had 1/1000th of that ability, I'd be a happy man. He's one of the most brilliant, inventive musicians, writers, producers, engineers of this era.
No, definitely.
I mean,
definitely.
I can't stand when people who have no fucking talent.
I used to have, and I can't remember the song. There was a couple of songs where I'd sit up all night trying to work out those, because those fucking riffs are so inside out. Yeah. And I'd work it out. I'd go in the next day and I go, I've worked it out, Jimmy. And he'd go, no, it's not that. Really? What do you mean it's not that? And he goes, this. And he'd play something. And I'd look at his left hand and I go, but it can't be that. Because that wouldn't, oh my God, it is. It's just, it's amazing where his head is at musically. It's just incredible. Great
player, man. The Smiths, another great freaking band.
That's a great guitar player. And mate, he's a fantastic guitar player, Johnny Marr. He's one of those, it's when I first heard him in the room, I literally remember like running over to look at his hands, because it's like, where's the other guy?
Where's the other guy?
He's like two people. He's fantastic. And actually, I must say, one of the proudest things of my career is, thanks to me, there's a song on the Kirsty MacColl album, Kite. I can't remember what the song is, and I don't even think I'm playing on it. But thanks to me, the guitar credit on that song is David Gilmour and Johnny Marr.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
How'd you get the gig with those guys?
That was through Bryan Ferry. I was recording with Bryan, and he had this really smart idea. It was obviously someone at his record company, his publishing company, came up with it. The Smiths had this song out, Big Mouth Strikes Again. Fucking great song. And the B-side was a thing called Money Changes Everything, which was an instrumental. And they had this idea that Bryan was going to write a song over it, which was a really, really clever idea, because, the Smiths sold a hell of a lot of records. And I said, I think Bryan may have just found a way into all those lonely, tear-stained bedsits. And the song had this really beautiful intro to it, lovely faded-in volume swell thing that Johnny did. And Chester, our guitarist, just kind of couldn't figure it out. We just couldn't figure it out. So we said, well, let's get Johnny in. So Johnny Marr came down, and it was just love at first sight.
That's amazing, man.
And so we just became really good buddies, and we just ran around town together. And he got me. He was being asked to play for everyone at the time, and that's how I met Kirsty. He got me in on a Kirsty MacColl session, and then it ended up with it was all I was doing with the Smiths was basically that Andy, their bass player, just got busted and wasn't going to be able to do the American tour. So they asked me to stand in for the American tour, but then that didn't happen anyway. So
he came back.
Yeah, no, I didn't even go. I just spent a week rehearsing with him. So. Which ended quite badly. In fact,
what happened? Yeah, I'm scared to ask.
It's in the book. That one. But Johnny and I remain friends to this day. Actually, I get a lovely message from Johnny like once or twice a year, and we speak once or twice a year. And he's just, I would like to have it on record. He is one of the finest men to ever walk God's earth. He really is great.
That's really cool, man.
He's got that thing. There's a couple of people, by the way. There's a couple of people I know who have this thing. Phil Manzanera is the same. Phil Manzanera from Roxy
right.
has the same thing where is that, and I wish I could still have it. Is that they both have this thing where it seems like every day of their lives, it's Christmas morning. They're 6 years old. They've just got up and they've just been given their first guitar.
So the passion, the enthusiasm for the instrument.
They're that excited about the guitar still every day, all day, and that's so brilliant.
I've met 2 or 3 guys like that through his interviews, and it is amazing. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Well, I just don't have it anymore. I mean, I love it. I still love the bass, but it's.
Well, it's hard to have that feeling. Yeah, it's a rare thing, very rare.
Yeah.
What doesn't Phil play with Roger?
Phil
Manzanera, yeah.
No, he was playing with David.
With David, okay. I wasn't sure.
Funny enough, I've literally just got back from, I was on holiday in Thailand, and Phil was there.
That's fun. You guys Brits love Thailand.
Koh Samui with Phil Manzanera, which is just delightful.
That's cool.
And we were saying what was fantastic was basically it was like going on holiday with him, but with none of the responsibility. When you go on a holiday with people, you're like, oh my God, are they having a good time? Do we have to hang out with them today?
Yeah, I hate that.
So this is brilliant. This was like all the best bits. We went on boat trips together, we went to restaurants, went to beaches, but there was no responsibility of, do you think?
Yeah, do we need to call the Manzaneras up before we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I know. Exactly. I know. I'm not a guy to vacation with others. It's like, Iggy Pop, man. What was that like? And how'd you get?
Well, I never met him. That was, well, I have met him subsequently, but that was just one of those things. That was basically because I became friends with Steve Lillywhite because he was married to Kirsty MacColl, and Steve was producing the Red Hot and Blue album, which was that first big AIDS benefit thing. And for some reason, they had this track, which was great. Debbie Harry and Iggy Pop duetting on "What a Swell Party This Is."
That's cool.
And there wasn't a bass on it, and I don't know why, or if he didn't like the bass was on it. So I just went into a studio and spent 2 hours playing the bass on it. That was it. I never met him. Although I did subsequently go on to write and produce a song for Debbie Harry.
Oh, that's cool. What was that like?
That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. She's amazing. It was quite a cool song, actually. It's called Communion, and it's on the album Deprivation.
Did you do work here in the States, or she was over in the UK?
No, she was over in the UK. She was over here for a while.
That's really cool.
She hung out with her. I remember taking her to see the Happy Mondays, funny enough.
How about this guy? This guy doesn't fit in the mold of anybody else. Robbie Robertson.
Oh, fuck. That was amazing.
I mean, he's amazing, but that's like one of the tests, one of these things is not like the other. That would be right. You'd circle Robbie's name and all the people I've mentioned, kind of.
Well, yes and no. But that was the period. That was 1989. That was, that's when I was playing for Pink Floyd. I'd just done Madonna. In fact, I did Michael Jackson halfway through that. So I was living in LA, and I was and it was really weird. I was like the hot English kid in LA, which is the. So
that's great. The out of town expert, man. You probably got so much work.
I did, but it was, but I felt like a bit of a fraud because I was working with all these super hot A-list session guys, fucking guys who play on Steely Dan records and everything. And I'm thinking, I don't know that I belong here.
Yeah.
But it was nice because what was interesting with all those musicians was that there were two distinct attitudes towards me, which was either the guys going, man, you check out this English kid. He's weird, but he's kind of got a thing.
He's weird, but he's kind of got a thing.
Or it was people just thinking I couldn't do it. All the cooler people were all into me. And I mean, I ended up playing some great stuff. So, but yeah, the Robbie Robertson thing was actually because it was the choice of producer that was weirder. It was Stephen Hague, who I knew, was a mate of mine, still is, who produced New Order and the Pet Shop Boys and all sorts of cool English stuff. He got asked to be, because remember this album was the follow-up to his first one, which was the big Daniel Lanois.
Yeah, that was a big album.
So this was, but what was amazing, so it was 3 months, and I got to play with literally every drummer in the world. And it was everyone from Ginger Baker to Tony Williams to Ndugu Chancellor to Jerry Marotta to...
all these drummers play on Robbie's record?
On this one record, everyone, yeah. He literally had everyone.
Holy shit, man. Wow, Tony Williams and Ginger Baker. You don't even need to say anything more than that. No, seriously. Ginger Baker is one of the finest. I mean, to me, yeah, he's crazy, at least if but God, there's no better drummer in the world.
Do you know what's funny? Because the funny thing is that Ginger Baker was actually like 5 years older than everyone else in that whole 60s scene, right? And so when I was there, when Ginger was working with us, we all got invited to his 50th birthday party. And you got to remember, everyone else, like all the 60s, like the Floyd were all kind of early, mid-40s by then. Even the Beatles, everyone was like mid-40s. And I was only 27. And we got invited to Ginger's 50th birthday party. I just remember thinking, 50?
God, that's old.
Fuck, it's 50, yeah. And we're in the studio, I've been thinking, I don't know if he'll be able to remember the parts.
And now that you're older, it's like find the bar goes up like, 75? That's child, I guess, just a baby, Yeah. That's great, man. What was it like? I mean, as the second part of the rhythm section, what was that like playing with him? I just think he's brilliant, man.
No, he is brilliant. It was I could never figure out why he'd never play hi-hat. He'd only ever play hi-hat with his foot until I finally tweaked one day. So, of course, it's drum solo hi-hat.
Yeah, he's such a, just even his body physiology was so unlike anybody's, the way he moved around the kit.
Yeah, yeah. But he was and he was actually very nice and very, very gentle. There were no episodes.
That's really cool. That's great, man.
Now, I presume you've seen the film, right?
I did see the film. Yeah, it was a little nutty, man. It was like I was, what is that? It was one of those things where I had a messed up childhood, but I was like, well, could have been Ginger Baker's kid. It was one of those, like I'm happy I had.
Really?
Yeah, I was happy I had the nuttiness I had. It was better the devil known than the devil unknown, sort of.
Yeah.
So what was it like working with Robbie on that?
Just fantastic. I mean, Robbie was amazing. He had always great stories about everything. I mean, he's and that's the great thing of him being part Native American. He comes from this oral tradition. And we actually had this thing we used to where we'd be working, because we spent months and months on this stuff. And what's really nice is a couple of those songs where there's like 4 bass tracks on it. It's great. I got cool. Track of harmonics, a track of fretless, a track of, it was so nice having all that time to experiment and stuff. But half the time we'd be working on track all day, and then Robbie, we were at Village Recorders, and then Robbie would be upstairs writing lyrics, and then he'd come down about 6 o'clock to show us what he'd written, which invariably turned into what we call Rob's Story Hour, where he'd just start telling stories, and we'd be sort of sitting adoringly at his feet. And it was literally like, so anyway, me and Garth are in Jack Ruby's nightclub, and this one-armed go-go dancer turns up. Dylan's at the airport. Al Cooper's coming to shoot us because we stole his weed.
Oh, your voice, you do voice is really good, man. That was exactly him.
Yeah.
That was
just
spooky.
Saying these stories. Oh, do you know my favorite one ever is him saying, because he's got that thing, because I say, man, your sound is so amazing. And he said, don't you start. And because he's got that thing of, and it's exactly the same as Gilmour, right? With Gilmour, it's people like, what do you do to get sound? It's just the fingers. Yeah. It's just the finger. You give him any guitar, plug him into anything, that's what it sounds like. It's just in the fingers, right? Robbie's got the same thing. He said when he was in the Hawks.
It's way back.
Yeah, way back. He said people were always coming up to me and saying, how do you get that sound? And I got so bored of trying to say stuff that I just started to make shit up, One day after a gig, this kid, how do you get that sound? Well, you see, the secret is my pickups have more windings. This kid goes, oh my God, of course. So this kid runs up. This kid's name is Seymour Duncan. I still don't have the heart to tell him his entire career is based on a lie.
Holy shit. He just passed like last week.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he just passed away. No. You didn't know. I was so like, but that's,
yeah. No, at least I'm not in any legal trouble now.
No. Not that you've had to that. What do you call it? To get off of something ever before.
Yeah.
Wow. But that's wild. So he went, and that was what inspired Seymour Duncan to wind pickups.
Yeah, well, it could, or to make. I mean, because if you think about it, yeah, it does make sense. And obviously, if you put more windings on a pickup, it probably will sound better. I mean, I don't really know. I'm not very good at technical stuff.
Wow, that's wild, though.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, he's a pretty intense guy. His music and his sound is very unique, Robbie.
Yeah.
Man, are you working on anything now that you're excited about?
Well, I'm just getting ready to go on tour, which is which is really, really exciting. Because the great thing about this band is it's a band, and it's really fun how I have to know about all the production stuff and all the gear and everything, and I'm really involved in getting my rig built and getting everything and where everything's got to go. Because I'm a sideman. I don't know. I just turn up and
right.
And I'm actually just finding out that apparently I didn't realize that apparently I have all these bass rigs that were built for me when I was playing for David Gilmour, and they never even told me.
So now you gotta use them.
So I've got all this. Yeah. So no, I haven't. No, actually, because it's great. Because Ashdown, who make my amps, have just built me this. as soon as they're so great because Mark Gooday runs the company. He's always had this kind of obsession with Wem, you know, the old British company who Pink Floyd used to. And as soon as I told him about this band, he went, right, I've got it. And he went and built me these cabinets, which are 3x10 old PA cabinets. And I said, I'm using two of those. They're fantastic.
So you're playing a bunch of Floyd songs that you haven't played with Gilmour on this, right?
Yeah. No, I've only ever played 3 of these songs before. And a lot of them have never been played. They never ever played See Emily Play live.
Really?
Yeah, never played it. They hated it. It was the pop single.
Oh. Yeah, what's the pop single?
Fearless
is a great song.
Yeah, and it's quite funny. We've all seemed to have got into kind of rig building competitions. I've got a bigger pedal board than I have with Gilmour.
This is a tough question. Is it possible for you to pick, like, what are your top 3 musical experience?
Top 3 musical experiences. Okay, one would be playing Venice with Pink Floyd.
Wow.
Because we were on an oil rig. We put a stadium stage on an oil rig, which was then sailed into the lagoon in Venice. There was every gondola in Venice was hired out by people who just parked up in front of the stage. We had 200,000 people in San Marcos Square, and it went out live to every country in Europe on TV.
Holy crap. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one to beat. I don't know, probably maybe doing Like a Prayer. Because that whole experience, that whole album was just brilliant. Was absolutely brilliant. And I got to work with all these amazing players, and Madonna was just fantastic back then, you know. And third, I don't know. Do you know what? I kind of think there might be a thing of Ask Me at the end of this tour because this band is quite frankly turning into, you know, possibly the most fun thing I've ever done.
This band with Nick.
Yeah.
So what do you think's going to happen after this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're just going to, you know, tour it as long as we can. I mean, it's while it's still fun. I mean, like I said, the whole thing of it is amazing. All we've done is this. We did this European tour, and it was like it's a real hard graft. It's like 4 shows in a row, and I say what was sweet. Nick's just turned 75, right?
Holy shit!
David's
about the same age, no?
Yeah, David's a year younger.
Okay,
but no. What was sweet is when we did this tour last September, it was the first time in his life that Nick Mason had ever slept on a tour bus.
Wow. Holy crap. That's wild.
Because back in the 60s, you didn't really do that. And then in the 70s, they basically went straight to a plane.
Yeah. They were like immediately in the 70s. Yeah. After Dark Side of the Moon, everything changed for the world and for them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
did he enjoy it?
He loved it. He's playing so great. Because I've never played with Nick on his own before. You know, with Floyd, there was always Gary Wallace as well. No one else can touch that, really.
What his play?
The way he played up, those first years with Floyd. I mean, that's just totally his. You know, he totally. I mean, after Dark Side, I think things became much more conventional. Also, I mean, it's like with the bass, you forget like the early stuff. Roger was an insane bass player.
Yeah,
it was all up the dusty end. It was kind of the weird thing is if I'd say who it was similar to, I'd say Peter Hook from New Order.
Really, I'm not that familiar with his playing. That sounds pretty cool, though.
You want to go?
All right, so I know your dad passed when you were pretty young. I was curious how that impacted you at that time, or even now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that yes, it did. I mean, the thing is, the last thing he gave me was my first bass guitar. So,
wow.
And I now figure that it's obviously because he wasn't around to sort of suggest I do anything else. I think it probably had a lot to do with why I just decided to be a bass player. I guess it's that terrible thing of you want to make someone proud, they're not there, so you can only do the thing that you think maybe they would have wanted you to do. The other thing that was really weird was that when I first played Wembley Stadium with Pink Floyd, and we'd been on tour for 9 months at that point. We sort of came home. It was real prodigal son return stuff, and it wasn't until I was literally walking up the back steps of the stage, and I suddenly remembered that he'd also given me Dark Side of the Moon.
Wow.
at the same time, which is
wow. So that was pretty heavy.
That was quite heavy.
Holy shit, man! I just got goose. Yeah, and as you're going on stage to play Dark Side of the Moon.
Fuck yeah!
Oh shit!
And so I mean, it's like I said, it's one of those things. As you get older, you start to realize how you've been shaped by stuff, and I think that it's because I probably I left school at 16. Everything I hated the school I was at, and I probably should have stayed at school. I probably should have gone to college, but I ended up doing what I do, and I guess, and that's obviously because of him. But I can't really complain because it's kind of turned out all right.
No, it turned out great. But you're also, you're, and this is what I like, why I think we have a little bit of chemistry is you're a rebel. I like that. And you're not going to take the conventional path on things just because that's what rebels do. They don't take, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I never really thought of that. I always had a thought, I know. It's because I always think of myself as someone who would like to think of themselves as a rebel, but actually is far more conformist.
No, man, that's because that's because your frame of reference is musicians. No, you know what I'm saying? Because you've seen like real, probably extremes of rebellion or nonconformity, but compared to non-musicians,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I guess I know what you mean. I mean,
you march to the beat of your own drum, and whether you're a musician or not, that's like a rebel. I like that. Those are the people I'm attracted to. I think I'm like that.
I was thinking. I mean, it's I'm 57, and my life is still feast or famine. I still don't. I don't have a. I mean, I've got this. I mean, I've got this weird thing where I've actually got kind of my whole year mapped out, which is something I never have. I mean, I'll have whole years of doing hardly anything, but the funny thing is, it would never occur to me that I'll sort of sit here do nothing rather than it would never occur to me to go and get a proper job.
Right. But also I bet you make things happen when when it's idle time, you try to figure out a way to get shit going. Yeah,
I do and I don't. I'm one of those kind of, my particular road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'm writing a treatment for a documentary idea I've got at the moment, and it's one page, and I really should have done it this afternoon, but I did like a few lines and then I just didn't. And I probably just went and abused some politicians on Twitter. Which what
does that pay?
Yeah, doesn't talk. I've got quite a lot of followers. I'm quite known. I've got quite a good pro EU voice on Twitter. It's quite funny. I've got a lot of followers who are basically from my wit and politics rather than my music.
That is funny, man. It reminds you of
I am something of a troll.
To join the EU, to stay with the EU, not to leave. Yeah,
no.
It's interesting. I remember, it just reminded me real quickly of when my kids were young. In video games. My sons are older; they're 29 and 27. Right, yeah. So they started playing video games, and I never forget. I saw this cartoon one day, and it said something like, the guy was looking for a job, and he's like, Space Invaders breaking the record is not listed anywhere as a high paying job. Space Invaders, if you could beat this, or whatever the game was. That's what it reminded me of. Sometimes when people
well, yeah, no, I mean, people who make fortunes now as an Instagram influencer.
Are you at that stage? Are you an influencer?
No, I'm not an influencer. No, I don't.
Well, I tell you what, that would be a good thing to do, man. I tell you, that's a lot easier than schlepping your bass all over the world.
Did you hear? But there was a very funny one. It became a big meme here a couple of years ago, which was there's some guy, because for some reason a lot of the YouTubers, all those Instagram people, a lot of them are concentrated in Brighton. A lot of them live in Brighton.
Interesting.
This guy PewDiePie is like the biggest guy in the world.
Yeah, he's in Brighton.
Yeah, he's in Brighton.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really, for some reason, it attracts all sort of people. And there's some young girl, and she's got fucking 18 billion followers on Instagram. So, and she does makeup tips or something. It's one of those. And it's really funny. She was walking on the seafront, and she took this picture of an old guy and his dog, and she just posted this picture, and it said, isn't it nice to see this old man who's at least got a friend in his dog, and it's so sweet. And then all these kids pile on, and go, oh, isn't that nice? He might be learning his head, but yeah, it's so nice that he's got his own. And this poor man, he'll never know his moment of fame because he's got his own. It was David Gilmour.
You're kidding me. That is hilarious. They wouldn't know him if he walked up to them and shook this.
This poor old man, but at least
oh my God. That is fucking hilarious. Oh shit. That is classic. That might be the single best story you've told this whole. That is great, man. What did David say to that? Was he well,
David didn't really say anything. I mean, he was very amused. The fact I've got a friend who a friend who does all my graphics and stuff, who's a bass player in Buenos Aires. And he actually knocked up a poster using the kind of current tour format we were using with that picture of David and the dog.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'll try and dig it out and find it. Well, I think it might be easy, actually, if you do a Google search on it, it's probably quite easy to find. It became quite a big thing. It was very funny.
I will look for it. Gilmour and the dog.
A man and his dog, David Gilmour.
A man and his dog.
Hang on. Let me have a quick look while I'm here.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned a minute ago that sometimes it's feast or famine. What were some of the lower points or the bigger obstacles you've had to deal with over your career, and how did you get through them?
Well, yeah, just not. I mean, I had a really work. Funny enough, actually, when I started doing the comedy, one of the reasons I did that was because I had this. It was that time when everything kind of collapsed. It was 2003, 2004. When in the kind of music business, just sort of collapsed. I had a studio at the Townhouse, which is this legendary studio in London, and where it was one of the a lot of the most important records of the 80s. It's where the Phil Collins drum sound was invented.
Oh wow. And
stuff, and the Stone Room Studio too, and I had a studio. There was loads of us who had studios down there. It was this fantastic little community, and so you could get anyone to do anything on your things. And I was doing music for TV and stuff, and I'd go and play bass sessions here and there. It was really, really great little setup, and then it all just stopped overnight. Everything just stopped, completely dried up, and to the point I couldn't afford the studio. I suddenly had my wife and I at the time had to rent our flat out and move into somewhere else. And we had, so my son was was less than 2 years old. And I mean, I was absolutely skinned and I had no idea what we were going to do. So, and that's when I started doing comedy. And the weird thing was when I started doing that, it's how everything turns around. Then I suddenly get, after having not had a real bass gig, proper touring gig or anything for years, suddenly David Gilmour announces he's doing a solo tour, asks me to do that. I get asked to go on the road with Roxy Music. It's like, fuck, man. And everything just happened. I mean, it really was a period where I was just like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I think this is all over. This whole thing has all been,
wow.
You've had a great blag for, it had been 15 years at that time. And I was just like, but that's it. I'm going to have to, think of something, go and work in a bank.
What? Let me ask you, why do you ever, like, when a bad run ends, do you think it's just like, okay, it's just over, like it's just a passing, like a season?
No. But as someone said, it's the nature of this life is, and someone said it is that no matter how bad things are, it's you're only ever one phone call away. From everything being turned around. It's literally just down to there's a phone call that's going to come or isn't. But I find that looking back, one always comes at some point.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that came, and I'm at least you got the comedy thing going. It's funny how at least you made something out of that.
Well, yeah. It was. Well, also there was one of those things because if I hadn't, it's one of those because it's always been in the back of my mind. I always want to do something to do with comedy, and if I hadn't done that, I kind of would have never forgiven myself. And what's great is I've kind of that itch has been scratched, and very nicely. So, and now I'm kind of at this I'm touring with a band, which is like the nearest thing to a band I've been in for years, and it's with my best friends, and it's the most fun thing, and it's so nice to know that there's always another box to tick.
Yeah, that is really cool, man. That being said, if you had to go back and give advice to younger guy Pratt, what would, as something that would make your life easier, business, personal, music, whatever, what would you have told yourself?
Just go to bed more often. Really,
don't party so much. Basically,
yeah, don't party so much. It was crazy. But it's fun. But I'm still here, and I mean, and I don't think there's. You can't start looking, thinking of how you do things differently because it's because then you'd be in a completely different place. And who's to say? There's a lot of the things that you get completely wrong are the things that end up making things be really right. So,
Yeah, I agree with that totally. Yeah. And sometimes you got to go through a dark period and to get something coming out the end that you never even expected.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's terrible thing when people say it's, like, have I got advice for young musicians? It's like, well, no, because it's a completely different world that you're in. And there's no point because when I was a young musician, I wasn't going to listen to some old guy.
Yeah, very true. No, totally true, man. Yeah. Wow. Concerts, man. Top 3, 2 or 3 best concerts you've seen. I know you said one.
Seen? Yeah.
I
said no. Amazingly, when I was 18, when I saw Pink Floyd do The Wall at Earl's Court, still the best show I've ever seen. What are the best things I've ever seen? Getting to stand at the side of the stage and watch Bowie on the Serious Moonlight tour. That was something, just to see someone with that much love. But I'll tell you who is possibly the greatest performer I've ever seen, and this was only last year. When I went to Milan for this, is Nick Cave.
Really?
The way he controls an audience and everything is terrifying. His stagecraft is absurd, but it's literally like, and this was in Milan. It happens everywhere, but this was in Milan. You get the feeling if he could make them just walk out of the building and go and take over the local TV station.
Wow! So he's really like
it's cult Messiah. It's frightening. It's amazing. I mean, it's a level of it's a Bowie level of charisma.
Is that because his fans are like?
Is incredible, and sort of seamless and faultless.
Wow, I was not expecting you to say Nick Cave.
Yeah, no, he really is something else. He's absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
One like that I thought was really surprising was years ago. So I saw Elvis Costello and at the tennis centre in Melbourne, and I'd played there with Pink Floyd, and it's a massive arena, and it's usually it's a massive arena vibe place. But he somehow did this thing where he literally made you feel like you're in a nightclub, or just literally pulled everyone in and made the whole place tiny. It was him and a little band. It had half of Elvis's band, Presley's band, and you felt like you were one of 30 people in some little smoky jazz cellar, and that is an amazing thing to pull off.
That is amazing. Have you been to? I know you've been there. Have you seen any good concerts at the 606 Club? Is that what it's called?
Yes, I've played the 606. Yeah, that is a great place.
There's some good players play there.
All the time. You can go down there pretty much any night.
That's cool.
Actually, I was really annoyed because I missed this. Some really good friends of mine, some really fucking great players, in fact. The Stacey brothers, and also did the thing at Ronnie Scott's recently, where they did a Steely Dan night.
Who, the Stacey brothers?
Yeah.
Really?
And my friend Andy Kane singing.
Wow.
And apparently that sounded like a great gig.
How far is Ronnie Scott's?
That's in Soho.
Okay, and how far is that from the 606 Club? Are they far? Or?
Well, the 606 is out on the wilder reaches of sort of Fulham and Chelsea. It's about 5 miles. Ronnie Scott's is the classic cool jazz club in town. Very good place. In fact, I saw Mojito's last ever show there. He died the night of the show I saw him.
Holy crap.
The King of the Mambo. I saw the King of the Mambo's last ever show.
And then he died. Wow. Name a couple of guitarists you've really enjoyed playing with. Obviously, I'm sure Gilmour is a word.
David Gilmour, Gary Moore, Johnny Marr.
God, this is a parade of riches here.
Jimmy Page. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there are. See, whenever I get asked things like that, I tend to go blank. I'll tell you who's a real surprise is Lee Harris, who's in the band now, who's my mate, who's in the Blockheads. Also, I'll tell you one thing is Phil Manzanera, just because of those parts of his, which are so legendary. You know, just standing next to him when he goes ba-da-dang, ba-da-dang, ba-da-dang on "Love Is the Drug."
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Lee Harris is the guy in
he's the guy in Source Full of Secrets. He played for Blockheads. He's a really, really great little guitar player. Really good. Jeff Beck.
Jesus, man, this is not even.
I recorded with it. Yeah, I know Jeff. It's quite funny actually. When a few years ago, David Gilmour's birthday, he had this little birthday dinner, and it was when he first moved to Brighton, and he just built this studio, and the idea was after dinner we were going to go and christen the studio.
Oh, and wow!
At dinner, there was me, Phil Manzanera, Jeff Beck. I can't remember who else, but so it was like we went into the studio to have a jam, but he hadn't invited a drummer. And the thing is, you know it was Jeff Beck who came up with the drum groove for Superstition.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was he didn't play on the record, but he came up with that groove, because he worked with Stevie on that album, and so yeah, that's Jeff Beck.
Jeff, that's amazing.
And the funny thing is, because we didn't have a drummer, so we go into David's studio, and so we got Jeff Beck, and he had to go on the fucking drums. And what's amazing is that Superstition groove is actually the only thing he can play.
Man, take it, Yeah. Wow. You know what? You're living a charmed life when you go into a room and there's no room for Jeff Beck to play guitar. No, I mean, seriously, that's like, as an outsider looking in, I have to tell you, that is like fairy dust shit, man. Holy fuck. Wow. But you know what? To credit to you, these guys could work with anybody in the world. Oh yeah, seriously, and so do you I know you don't have an ego at all in that way, but do you ever at least say, "Hey, man, I'm doing something. I must be doing something right here"? No,
yeah, definitely. I mean, the only thing is, having got to, for years, I was always incredibly insecure. I was just, and I've always still been, why? How the hell is this happening? It's only now that I find it, rather than kind of worrying. I always had this terrible worry that I was just going to get found out.
Yeah.
Because
I get that.
But now, and it's not necessarily that I sort of think I'm particularly great or anything, but I have come to the conclusion, it's like, well, you know what? If they haven't found me out yet, they're probably not going to. No,
you got to be there's a value you're adding. You just probably
I don't know what it is. Well, it's funny enough, I had to do an interview, funny enough, with just a little one this afternoon for someone from The Guardian. They were doing a thing about the 30th anniversary of Like a Prayer.
Yeah, you said, how'd that go?
And I was talking about working with Pat, Pat Leonard, and how, because Pat always had this thing about how I'm the greatest bass player in the world, and people should have to get a license from me if they want to play bass.
That's a good marketing spin. I can't work with you. Do you have the license?
Stanley Clarke, man. He was. But the funny thing is, when I work with Pat, he has an understanding of what I do, way beyond it. And whenever I work with Pat, he gets the best shit out of me, the absolute best shit. So yes, when I work with him, I kind of am the best bass player in the world, but that's because of him.
Right. Yeah, but he's able to coax something out of you. But if you didn't,
he is. Yeah. It's brilliant. I mean, every time, whenever I work with it, because I just did this. He's just done this great project of reimagining a lot of the old Madonna songs he wrote, using lots of modular keyboards and stuff. It's a very weird, esoteric thing, but it's great. He got me out to play on it, and I'm thinking, oh my god, what am I going to do? And I ended up doing. And I listen back and go, fucking hell, man, that's great. And it's like, how it's just, but Pat. No, that's a true producer for you.
Well, you must have that. You're not getting undressed, I hope, are you, guy?
No, I'm not. Sorry, no.
I really dig you, man, but
yeah. Yeah, I don't want Pat getting the wrong idea either. I get all hot when I talk about Pat.
No, but I mean, you just must have great, chemistry with him musically. Yeah, that's awesome, man. This would be interesting.
Chris Spedding, by the way, is another fucking great guitar player.
Chris Spedding, yeah. I've been, I think I got to get a hold of him. I think I reached out to him. I got to contact him again. I think, I have him in my,
I mean, he's that guy. That's a proper legend, and he's amazing. He is so. I've done quite a few solo gigs with him. I mean, that was a great threesome. I've done gigs with. It was just me, him, and Andy Newmark on drums, which is great. Andy, I fucking love. But yeah, and
like
he
jazz
really
gigs.
Is so rock. What?
Jazz gigs or rock gigs?
No, rock gigs. I mean, what Chris plays, is like is sort of punk rock in the truest sense. It's just proper old fashioned dumbass rock and roll, and it's brilliant. It's so much fun.
It's very cool, man. Desert Island Discs, and when I say this, I notice when I say this in the UK, you guys take it as singles. In the States, it's albums. So so what I'm looking, yeah.
What's quite fun is because you obviously the radio show over here, right? There's Desert Island Discs. It's one of the most famous shows on the radio here.
I've never heard.
Been going for about 50 years. Yeah, it's where they get some famous person and they have to choose the 10 records. They can take a Bible, the works of Shakespeare, and 10 songs, and they have to choose the 10 songs. That's what Desert Island Discs is to us.
Oh, okay. Now I know everybody picks singles.
And the joke I have about it, of course, is now it's such an outmoded concept. Where rather than there are the 10 songs you can take with you, it should be right. What are the 300,000 songs that you take on your flash drive?
Yeah, that's about the size of it, man. You got that right. So,
what are my desert? Oh, that's a trick. I don't really know. La Censure pour l'Échafaud by Miles Davis.
Wow.
Which was the film soundtrack, which was actually his like demos almost for Kind of Blue. And it's this very cool French movie. But it's and you can hear it's basically it's the sort of genesis of Kind of Blue. And it's one of my favorite records. It never gets old to me, that. Quadrophenia.
God, so just you listen to that whole thing through, it's just mind blowing, man.
Yeah, probably Risque by Chic. And I can't think. It's a tricky one. I'm always worried about things like this because I'm always worried that the records I would choose aren't obscure enough. Do you know what I mean? And because I don't know, what is it? Bass out, because it's the thing. What would you really want to listen to?
Yeah.
It's like not what's your favorite song. There's things that your favorite songs, and then there's the things you actually go back and listen to. Do you know what funny album that I always keep going back to? I don't know, which I absolutely love, just because is Stage by David Bowie, that Bowie live album.
I don't know that album. I'm gonna have to check
It's really, really good. Really, really good. Any and all Bowie, really.
It's funny.
I'd need to think about this.
No, it's cool, but it's interesting you mentioned Quadrophenia because for some reason that's turned into like a deep cuts record. You don't hear that a lot, like at all.
No.
And yet, if you listen to it, they've made it's so vivid, like, the whole mods and rockers thing. And, when Daltrey's talking and his dialogue or his monologues, it's just incredible. You really feel like you're right there in that whole thing, that whole scene kind of going down.
Yeah. Also, it's because I discovered, it was when I was 15, and I don't think, because the film, I think it's the greatest. Oh. It's the greatest. I mean, it's because it sums up every generation of English youth culture perfectly. And of course, it was all shot here in Brighton. There's an alleyway here. Right, and it's really sweet because there's a mod clothes shop right next to it, and everyone calls it Quadrophenia Alley, and it's where Phil Daniels shags Leslie Ash in the film, and you go down there, and it's like Abbey Road. It's just covered in graffiti, and it'll be more people from Japan and everywhere, and just people go and you can see where they would have had to set the camera up.
Wow. So, this is a deep question. I'm really interested in your response to this. What's your definition of happiness, man? Because you seem like a super happy guy, basically.
Wow.
And your happiness seems very genuine. Also, it's not put on.
I don't know. It's contentment, isn't it? I mean, it depends what happiness is. It's gosh.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I don't know that it is. I mean, I know people tend to think of me as happy, and I am very happy. It's kind of it's acceptance, really, isn't it? I guess. I mean, acceptance of yourself, acceptance of, and appreciation. I think realizing what you have. I guess.
No, man, that's cool.
Loving and being loved.
Yeah. No, you just seem like you have a very genuine. You said genuine. Maybe that's what it is. Genuine acceptance of yourself, and it just translates in a real positive way. So
yeah, but I mean, if you'd asked me that a few years ago,
well, but right now, I don't know you a few years ago,
yeah,
but I mean,
but I mean, anyone, I think it's, I think it's, they say get to my. I mean, now because I never really had a plan. And I guess the idea that I've got to this age and I've got, I live in a really nice house and I'm still doing what I want. And I still have a lot of the same friends I always had. And, I have a wonderful son. I guess it's kind of what's not to like, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. That I've learned so much about musicians through doing this. And one of the things is like people, outside assume musicians are, irresponsible. I will tell you, I have had less meetings missed with musicians in 18 months, albeit there's been 500 meetings roughly, but less meetings missed in 18 months than in 20 years.
I had a theatre director, a theatre director said a fucking great thing to me at the Edinburgh Festival last year, and a prize to all of us showbiz types. Musician, and it's the same with a gig or with a play or anything. He said, how many of us, right? Everyone, you have a builder comes do work at your house, and he says, we'll be here for 3 weeks. It's cost this much. This is not 3 months later. They still haven't done it, and they've lied, and it's cost you 5 times much. We say we're going to have a fucking show on in 3 weeks. We're going to have that fucking show on.
Yeah. For exactly what you told them. It's going to start at fucking 8 and it's going to end at 9:15, just like you said. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing.
And people go through hell and high water to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, really brilliant.
There's no business like show.
Oh man. Who's had the biggest influence on you musically and also personally?
Musically, I don't really know. It's quite funny because the reason I'm a musician is absolutely, like I said, 100% because of Pete Townsend, and because of the Who, because of it was that absolute intent of them. It's just the idea of anyone meaning something that much and doing something that managed to sound so angry and expressive, which was clearly so joyous. That was
yeah, man, that's really pretty deep, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was their music, they were angry, but their music wasn't angry.
Yeah, but it was the joy. The joy of when you get pulled again. Of something also, which is something, especially with where we are now, man, was one of the most profound bits of political writing ever,
Wow.
And it's the happiest thing you've ever heard, but the angriest.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, yeah.
And
wow,
personally, I don't know, probably the biggest influence on me, probably David Gilmour, really, who's just, his cool-headedness and sort of absolute calm in the face of anything, and ability to see the big picture is something that I've always marveled at. So
that's great. So I told you he's like my all-time number one guy musically, and I'm always amazed how often I can listen to anything that he's done, and it still makes me feel just as great as the very first time I felt it.
Yeah,
that's almost impossible. For almost anything else.
Yeah. Well, he once said a great thing to me about, which I think you can apply to basically to anything. Certainly any work of art, but actually pretty much anything. And which he said, it's like when you're making an album, and I think this was the difference between Pink Floyd and other people. It says it's like when you're making an album, it's the same. And I know this so well. I think when you're cutting a song or something, you go on the first day and you're so excited and everything sounds great and you've got so much energy. blah, blah. But then you kind of go, as you're finishing it, David said everything on a record is down to that last 10%. If you can't find that thing on the last week that you had on the first day, then the whole thing's down the drain. And it's so true. And that's fucking hard.
Yeah. To dig down and find the excitement and the enthusiasm. Yeah.
It's the same with, and it's kind of the same with everything. It's so true. It's that last 10%. It's a great lesson that he taught me, which I probably haven't applied to anything.
You know what, man? That is really true.
I remember when I first, being on with Icehouse, doing that when we were supporting Bowie and getting to know Bowie's band, hanging out with those guys. And I remember Carlos Alomar giving me what was probably a fantastic piece of advice. He said, because I was new to touring, and he said, before, when you finish a big tour, he said, don't go home. You're no good to anybody. Don't go home. Go on vacation, then go home. And I thought, God, that's such good advice.
Yeah.
Never did it. When I think about looking back now, like at the end of that first Pink Floyd tour, when I was a fucking basket case, and it's just, and it's like, God, yes, why didn't I go and have 2 weeks in Jamaica?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, you're probably dying to get home too at that point. It's
actually, I do remember, but I remember specifically thinking, it's like, I mean, what? I want to go and stay in another hotel?
Right. And then you'll be there and you're like, shit, I'm dying to get out of here. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, and I'm probably more to the point, and I'm paying for this?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm not getting paid?
Yeah, that makes good sense. That's true. In here, like in this country, there's an expression that goes something like, you're on the 10-yard line or something like that, but you got to remember those last 10 yards are the hardest to get, to score. So it's very similar. 2 more questions, Guy. And you're awesome. I genuinely mean that. You're just a breath of fresh air, and you're really, really nice and cool and genuine. So thank you. Talk about a specific experience that changed your life or altered the way you think about things.
Ooh.
Last 10 yards is the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I walked into that one, didn't I? What? Oh, God. Oh, God. No, because I want to get it right. I can't. Do you know what? I'm going to have to come back to this. We might have to come back to another night. I don't know how much of a hurry you're in.
No, I'm not.
Because this has been really good, and I want to get that right.
And the last
question on sport.
The last question is biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and how much of that change was intentional and how much is just a natural part of aging?
Well, I like to think I've probably mellowed a bit. I think I've got a lot nicer, I think, and I've got a lot more considerate. And actually, a lot of that, I think, is to do with Georgie, my girlfriend.
Oh, dude, you're scoring brownie points right now.
No, I'm not, but it's because she just has a very, very different. She's just a much kinder person than I am.
No, I feel you. I totally get it. That's great.
So no, she's definitely changed my outlook. But I'm still trying to think of the big event thing that sort of changed me. I mean, it's a funny thing because obviously, when I look back, when I started playing for Pink Floyd, I work on this obvious assumption that I became an arsehole. I just assume I must have been an arsehole. There used to be a thing, where when I was young, when we were all kind of starving musicians together, and there was this pub called the Churchill in Kensington where we all used to gather and drink. And I used to love it whenever someone got a gig or they got signed by a record company or someone off, and people go, yeah, mate, off you go, great. And then you notice there's a lot of people who really don't think like that. Yeah. People get really bitter and really upset. And I remember when I came back from my first tour with Icehouse, the first time I'd ever had money in my pocket and everything, and going down the pub, and I couldn't wait to see everyone and buy everyone a drink. It's like, hey, drinks from me, I'm back. And people are like, oh man, he's changed. It's like, what?
Really?
Yeah. And I also, there was a thing which I actually was quite surprised. I came up with this at a very young age, I think, which I think was quite mature. was the idea which it was that thing where someone suddenly did have some success, had a hit or whatever, and people would become an arsehole, bit of an arsehole, right? And people go, "Oh man, it's become such an arsehole." I just think, yeah, but they probably are. I think the thing is, you give them 6 months. You're allowed to be an arsehole for 6 months. If at the end of that you're still an arsehole, then you're an arsehole.
Then you're an asshole.
If you're not, then you're not going to be. But it's true. Everyone's allowed to be. Actually, there's a great thing that Martin Amis, the writer, once said, though, which is my favorite thing, which is the difference in words. Because you say asshole and we say arsehole, right?
Yes.
But as Martin Amis made this really good point, that they are actually two very different things, being an asshole. Because everyone is an asshole every now and then. Okay? I can be an asshole. You can be an asshole. Your best friend can be an asshole. You're such an asshole. But if you're an arsehole, you're an arsehole.
I'll have to figure out which one my wife is calling me once in a blue moon from time to time. I have to quantify, babe, am I an asshole or an asshole? I just got to get comfort in that. Man, you're great, man. And I'd love to talk with you anytime. And let me tell people where they could check you out. First of all, Guy is touring with Nick Mason's Saucer Full of Secrets. They're touring throughout the States. If you're a Pink Floyd fan, go see the show. And
no, you don't have to be a Pink Floyd fan. You don't have to be a Pink Floyd. If you're a punk fan or you just want to see a proper old school psychedelic show, come and see it. It's not limited to, because there's a lot of stuff that later Pink Floyd fans really wouldn't recognize as Pink Floyd.
Really?
Do you know what I mean?
Later Floyd. Yeah, I'm in.
Do you know what I mean? If you're a dark side, people who are sort of fair weather, post Dark Side of the Moon fans.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of stuff. It's like seeing another band.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm so into Floyd from day one. It's like I couldn't even. That's like, there are fans like that, but I guess so. Of course,
Yeah,
it's like with every band, you find them in a certain era, and that's And also, Burning Men. When does that come out?
Oh yeah. Oh shit. In fact, it's really annoying. Actually, I'm on tour. They've got a screening down in Brighton, and it's. I don't know when it's happening in America, but I know it's certainly got. It's going on in quite a few cinemas over here.
That's very cool.
I think it's going to do quite well. Yeah, I can't give you. You'll have to look at the website for that.
I will. Check out the Burning Men. It's Burning Men, the movie.
Men, yeah.
Burning Men.
It's a good fun film.
And Guy's in that, and this is his one shot. If this works, he's going to Hollywood.
That's my get out of here.
Yeah, that's his get out of Brighton card. So make that happen. Make it so. Man, thank you. You're a lovely guy, man. Honestly, I'd love to buy you a drink when I come over to the UK sometimes and sit and
man. Well, it's such a shame you can't make it to Miami.
Oh man, I'd love it. Yeah. I let me think on this. I don't know.
Think on it, man.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'd love to see you.
Oh, it'd be great, man. Listen, thank you very much. If I could ever help you with anything, if you ever got something to promote, you please come back on here and let's sell it.
Absolutely.
And turn my audience onto it. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with a friend in your social media channels. We really appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Guy Pratt for spending time with us. Check him out on Nick Mason's Saucer Full of Secrets. If you're into psychedelic 60s stuff and obviously Pink Floyd, it's going to be a great show. Just some tremendous musicians on there. And check out his new movie, Burning Men. Thank you for listening. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar and have fun. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.